Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Thanks for being with us. Mike Walters, the Executive Director of the Southwestern Illinois Employers Association, is alongside. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
And Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch, is here as well. Welcome, Pat.
I can't.
Pat, the elections are over. We're taping on Wednesday. The elections wrapped up last night, and good election day if you're a Democrat in Illinois, as far from the standpoint that the Democrats got a big majority now in both the House and Senate in Illinois.
Veto-proof majority in the Senate and the House, which is a big gain. Gained 4 seats in the United States House of Representatives. That was strong. Down the line, Democrats, Bill Enyert won in the congressional race. Appears that that the Republican lost in the 13th. I mean, the Democrat lost in the 13th. So, Republican gained there with Gil's opponent, whose name is
Rodney Davis.
Yes.
God, Shimkus having a brain fart. A Shimkus aide. So that was something of a loss. Dwight Kay, I guess, maybe too close to call in the state house. I don't know if you guys see more recent.
He's been declared a victor.
Declared a victor by about 300 votes. So for the most part, a strong day for Democrats in Metro East as well. It's interesting when you look at Obama having won Illinois, and everybody, of course, thought that obviously Illinois was going to be a blue state all along, but it shows the difference between population and geography. By my quick count, Obama only carried 23 of the 102 counties in Illinois, which is kind of funny if you look at it on a map, but if you win to write 23, you're doing okay.
You've done all right. Surprised by the Democrats' strength this election cycle?
Yes and no. It's a presidential election year. The Democrats always do better in presidential election years because they get out the vote. A lot of people get out and just vote for the president, and that's all they will do. So the fact that they picked up super majorities in the House and the Senate is a surprise. I think that's going to bode very poorly for businesses in the state. As we know, they tend to feel that the only way to get us out of this budget crisis is to close loopholes, which closing loopholes usually means closing tax exemptions for businesses, which in the long run will lose businesses. Most people probably don't know this, but if we had the same number of jobs now that we did 10 years ago, we wouldn't even have a budget deficit right now. So that's going to be scary. I think the businesses are going to be hurt, but I think the fact that they won that many seats is a surprise.
Pat, let's start at the top of the ticket, or at least the top for this region, the Enyert-Plummer race. Any surprise there?
Well, maybe a surprise. I think a lot of people thought that Jason Plummer would have a stronger finish than he did against Bill Enyert. A lot of money was spent in that race. A lot of mud was slung in that race, going both ways. Some folks will look at the district and say, well, this has been in Democrat hands since Mel Price won it in 1944. Only 2 people to this point have represented the district in all those years, Price and Jerry Costello, both Democrats. But of course, with redistricting, the district does change its nature over the years. The district to which Mr. Enyert was elected yesterday or on Tuesday was not the same boundaries by any means as it has morphed from one to another. And Republicans are getting a stronger hold even in the core Metro East area. So maybe a little bit of a surprise that Enyert did as well as he did, but overall probably not a surprise that a Democrat would win that seat.
Mike, any surprises in the Enyert-Plummer race?
I don't think that's a big surprise. The Democrats redrew the map. They drew it in a way to unseat several of the Republican congressmen, several of the senators, and several of the House representatives. And as Pat said, that's been held by a Democrat since 1944. That's not near as big a surprise as the fact that Rodney Davis won his seat. That was held by Tim Johnson, who retired, and they redrew that slightly, as they call it, D1, which is the Democrats have it by about 1%, hoping that they could get rid of Tim Johnson. Tim Johnson is fairly moderate Republican at best. Rodney Davis is a little more conservative, so I am surprised that Rodney won that. And however, if you looked at his gentleman that was running against him, he was even probably too liberal for that district.
And Bill had run a number of times before,
Yes.
right? Several times against Johnson.
Yes.
And that's that strange district that sort of comes down like a dagger from the north through the heart of, through the heart of Metro East, and provides that odd situation in Collinsville where you can drive down St. Louis Road and you're in one district and the traffic coming toward you is in the second district. And if you look to your right one block, yeah, that's the third district.
You can actually go to Fairmount Park and you can have Congressman Enyert, Shimkus, and Davis all standing in there, and they'd be in their own district.
The horses in a race run from one district through another and back. And I'm not making that up.
No, you're right.
That up. They really do.
And no surprises when we mentioned John Shimkus.
No, that was an odd situation with Angela Michael as the Democrat, who's I would presume every bit as conservative as Mr. Shimkus is, running on the Democrat side, and that's been a safe seat for John for a long time, and I expect will be for the time he wants to hold it. So no surprise there.
No, I agree. There's no surprise that John was going to win that. I think he spent most of his time trying to help Jason Plummer and Rodney Davis, so no surprise there.
Big victory for State Senator Bill Hayne, won by several thousand votes over Mike Babcock, the challenger.
I think a familiar name always helps. Again, maybe the surprise in that district to me is not so much the outcome, but the amount of money that was spent, the amount of television advertising that was invested in that race was significant. Harbinger of things to come, maybe. We're really not used to having that kind of exposure to our candidates here. And really we're not used to having, in some of these districts, we're not used to having strong enough Republicans or moneyed enough Republicans to run a solid race. So I think it's in everybody's benefit when these things become more competitive, and it looks like it's going that way.
Big win for Senator Bill Hayne, Mike.
Big win. I think this is he was a good candidate, well known, but let's face it, he outspent his opponent probably 4 or 5 to 1. He was on television up until the television buy started. It was felt to be within the margin of error. Once the television commercials came on, he built up a sizable lead. I would say there's not anybody predicted an 18-point victory. So that was a surprise. But Senator Hayne he was supported by the Illinois Chamber of Commerce, which is a surprise. And he's done a very good job, actually, when it comes to the insurance committee that he is on. He has killed several really bad bills that would have negatively impacted businesses. So it's a surprise that he won by 18 points, though.
We need to take a break. We have more Metro Talk coming up in a moment.
Hi, I'm Audrey Lucchese, and I'm from Alton, Illinois. I love music, and that's why I came to Lewis & Clark. It's been an amazing experience here at Lewis & Clark, working with students that are so talented, coming from all over the area, and they work so hard to follow their dreams. The music faculty at Lewis & Clark they're fantastic, and they're there every step of the way to push you to follow your dreams. One of the unique opportunities that I have had at Lewis & Clark is being able to record my own music with a fellow student here. Being able to record our music has opened doors for us in the music industry. My long-term goal is to finish here at Lewis & Clark and then to transfer to a 4-year school and finish my degree in music performance. I would recommend Lewis & Clark to another student because it is definitely a great place to get started, and it can open so many doors for you.
Learning how to kickflip 6 stairs takes determination. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
Packers. Viking. Packers. Viking. Viking.
Red state, blue state, vegan,
Carnivore.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
downtown,
Optimist.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
half full.
But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities,
Live.
our families,
United.
even the person next to us.
Live united.
Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up at liveunited.org.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Pat Gowan and Mike Walters are here. Pat, we've been talking about the state Senate races and the House race. I guess the real horse race, and we touched on it very briefly, was with Dwight Kay and Marlene Suarez. That one was very tight.
Right down to the wire. We couldn't call it before a deadline last night. In fact, Mike was just telling me that now it's being called in Kay's favor. That's kind of interesting. Would have been politically interesting if he lost. He unseated Jay Hoffman, and then Hoffman came back in a different district to win on Tuesday. And if Kay had lost, that would have sort of completed this sort of strange circle. So now I guess they can serve together.
Close one there, Mike. 300 or so votes.
It was very close. The Democrats, what they did in Madison County was to get out the vote. Hain and Beiser went out, and well, I have to give the credit to their leaders. They're the ones that put this together and got the Democrats out to vote. And I think the Republicans were caught flat-footed. They weren't really expecting that big of a turnout. And if they did, they were expecting it to be Republicans being a little bit more upbeat about Romney than they were McCain some 4 years ago. So very surprised that it was 300 votes, but I had a feeling, and the people that I were talking to thought it would be close, but not that close.
Think about 300, I think 327 in my last note out of about 48,500 votes cast. That is just paper thin. Now, is there a chance there'll be enough provisional ballots to throw that into doubt in some way when those things get thrown into the hopper? Do you have any idea?
It certainly could. Dwight Kay's statement today was he's going to wait until all the absentee ballots are cast and vote and counted. But at this point, it looks like he's going to win a very narrow vote. Could they do a recount? They could. I don't think Mike Madigan really cares. He has the majority, which is what he wants. I've been told by many people in Springfield he doesn't want a supermajority because it becomes harder to control his members. So they may just kind of go through it, but I don't think Mike Madigan really cares for a recount right now. He works very well with Dwight Kay, as a matter of fact. He talks to Dwight every other week or so about some of Dwight's ideas for business.
It was a little easier day for Dan Beiser over Kathy Smith.
Well, again, I think power of incumbency helps a lot, and just sort of the nature of the territory. Smith ran a strong Republican race against him, and again, as we keep talking about, a lot more television than I would have expected, to see her on TV as much as she was and see Beiser on TV as much as he was. I was surprised.
That race we thought would be even closer because the House Republicans stayed in that race till the end. They got the Senate Republicans got out of Mike Babcock's race about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so we kind of had a feeling that one was done and over with. But again, that was 16 points. That shocked everybody. There was not a poll out there that had it anywhere near that.
And Pat, you mentioned earlier that Jay Hoffman's back in the House. He won fairly easily.
He did, and I think he went through a period of time not being sure what it was he wanted to do. I think we had a quick false start, maybe for a congressional race, and in the end he goes back to where he spent something like 20 years. He had been, at one point, been Blagojevich's roommate in Springfield, and there were questions when Blagojevich was ousted how much of the splatter of Blagojevich might attach to Hoffman, and interestingly, very little seemed ever to hook up with him. And he did lose to Kay, but he'll be back.
Jay Hoffman's going back to Springfield, Mike.
I don't think that's a surprise. Tom Holbrook has done such a good job of representing the people in that area. He was a Democrat, although word is that Jay and Tom weren't exactly best friends up there, and Jay winning that was no surprise. I guess as a skeptical person has commented to me about the fact that Jay Hoffman only had 18 years in Springfield, and when he lost, you didn't see him getting any fill out his 20 years, and as you both know, after 20 years, that's when you get your full pension up in Springfield. I don't believe Jay did that. I think he liked what he was doing, but there are a lot of people that had brought that up that he needed at least 2 more years. Will he step down after this 2 years? No, I think he'll be there as long as he wants.
Mike, does it mean something in regard to the party that they didn't reach out and hand him some kind of rescue with that?
Well, it would be his relationship with former Governor Blagojevich. Blagojevich came in, tried to break the rule that most people know of: is you don't cross Mike Madigan. If you cross Mike Madigan, he's going to come after you. And Governor Blagojevich is in prison. Mike Madigan is still the Speaker of the House. So you got to stay away from making Mike Madigan mad.
Pat, we talked a little bit earlier, mentioned briefly the money that was spent in these races. We normally haven't seen the kind of TV advertising that we did this time around for some of the House and Senate races in Illinois. A lot of money spent on St. Louis TV.
Well, I say that I didn't understand the business model of Starbucks, the idea of selling people $3 or $4 cups of coffee in the middle of a recession and getting rich doing it. I couldn't grasp that, and I sort of don't grasp the amount of money that's being spent in political races. Also, in these very difficult times, and when there's such hard decisions to make, I think I guess it shows how important these races are to the parties and forging a policy going forward in Springfield. But at the same time, I think you'd have to raise money to pay me to run rather than me pay to run. Why anybody wants these offices with the enormity of the issues that face them, and for the relatively little amount they're paid compared to what it costs to get elected to one, I don't know why they want to do it in the first place.
That would be an interesting ratio, the amount spent to get compared to what that job pays.
It's absolutely staggering. And of course, they're not paying it personally most of the time. In a few cases, people do, but mostly not.
Mike, a ton of money spent in this election cycle.
Money speaks, and that helps the candidate who has the most money usually wins. Very rarely do you see a candidate that's outspent 4 or 5 to 1 winning. And this was a Democratic year. Nobody called it. If you look at the coffers of Mike Madigan and John Cullerton, they're 2 or 3 times what their cross aisle seatmates of Christine Radonio and Tom Cross have. And when you have $2.8 million to $1 million, it certainly bodes well for you to pick up seats when you can. But money speaks. That's the way it is. It always has been. It always will be. I hear so many people, they get frustrated because of negative ads. Well, negative ads work. And I saw a pollster today, and the pollster was talking about President Obama won because President Obama went very negative this time. And this is a pollster, this isn't a Republican, said Romney did not go negative enough on Barack Obama. So negative ads work. If people don't want negative ads, when they see one, they need to call the lady or gentleman that's running and say, I'm not voting for you because I just saw that terrible negative ad. And if you got 30,000 people calling a senator or a state rep saying they're not voting for them, and then they go out and lose by a whole lot, they'll stop. But until people speak at the ballot box against negative campaigning, it will always be here, and it'll be here for the rest of my lifetime.
We all rail against it, and I wrote against it just recently, but if you go look at the presidential library in Springfield with Lincoln and look at some of the campaign material, if you're not a student of history already, and I'm really not, but you look at some of the campaign material against Lincoln in that day, that was every bit as savage, maybe even more so, than what we're seeing on TV now.
So they attacked his wife. They went after the type of person she was.
Maybe stronger than against him.
Yes.
We need to take a break. We'll have more right after this.
Welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check in with the Exercise Science Program and Shane Callahan.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I just don't have enough time to exercise? Well, here's a few ideas to get you more active from the comfort of your own home while enjoying some of your favorite TV shows. Your typical TV show has 4, 5, 6, even 7 2-minute breaks, which allows for 15, 20 minutes worth of activity. And the activity doesn't have to be very bold or very difficult, but just not wasting that time sitting idly can make all the difference in your health. Movements that use body weight, such as push-ups, sit-ups, dips, or wall squats, or even if you have a bottled water and you want to do arm curls or a lateral raise, these are ways to better fitness. With that in mind, enjoy your show and become more fit.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
Oh, come on!
Oops.
Yeah, sure.
Strong.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy.
Works every time.
Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Pat Gowan and Mike Walters are here. Pat, the Democrats in Madison County or all of the Democrats running for county-wide office were all winners. Any surprises there?
Yeah, Amy Meyer, one of those Democrats who won, beat Matt Rice, the Recorder of Deeds, who won in a 2-year term to fill a vacancy 2 years ago as County Recorder of Deeds. So Republicans who could celebrate having 2 office holders in Madison County when they've fairly seldom had one are now back to one. Further evidence of it being a Democrat's day again. There had been a little bit of criticism, I think we talked about on the show a while back, her claim that he had maybe improperly shared information, tax information to people who are using it for commercial purposes, but on the other hand, it's all public record, as we were saying in the first place, so it probably didn't really make much difference. Whether that resonated or whether it was just party labels that made the difference in that race, I don't know, but definitely a loss for the Republican Party in Madison County.
Mike, a clean sweep for the Democrats in the county.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the get out the vote for Senator Hayne and Representative Beiser really worked there. It was shocking the amount that they won by. I've always been a proponent when I talk to, I'm an elected official, I'm a county board member, Republican, and when they asked me what their thoughts were, I said, you can't run a full slate, especially right now when you have every congressional seat up, you had every Senate seat up, you had every House seat up, you had every county board seat was up, and then you had 6 county-wide seats. There just isn't enough money. Republicans don't have the fortunate ability to look to the unions or the trial lawyers and say, we need X amount of dollars. A couple weeks before, several trial lawyers dumped in $190,000 into a fund. The week before, they dumped in another $30,000 into a fund. And that's very helpful. I mean, businesses are afraid to step out and support Republicans the way trial lawyers and unions support the Democrats.
And yet Romney won Madison County.
2,200 votes.
Why didn't that have a greater pull on those Republican candidates for county office?
Some people think that it was just a Democrat year. Some people would like to blame certain people within the Republican parties for the way they acted when they won their last election. I just think the get out the vote worked very well, and when the Republicans run too many people as they did, that motivates the other individuals to get out and work. If you don't run somebody against an individual, that individual is not going to go out and work. 2 years ago, the Republicans ran against Bob Hertz. Bob Hertz wasn't going to work, but since he had somebody against him, he went out and worked, and we lost a county board seat over by where Sheriff Hertz lives right now by 6 votes. I'm going to tell you, if Sheriff Hertz was not out running, knocking on doors, that seat would be a Republican seat right now.
It's interesting, we take Metro East for granted as being a Democrat area. Romney got almost 51% of the vote in Madison County. Obama actually got 51% in St. Clair County, not including the portion that's covered by the East St. Louis Board of Election Commissioners. East St. Louis were 12,544 people voted for Obama and 90 voted for Romney. When you add that into the St. Clair County total, it was 57% for Obama. But it's interesting that if you take out the East St. Louis component and you look at the rest of St. Clair County, I think most people would still assume it's basically a Democrat county. The closeness of the presidential race might be a surprise to some people, although this has happened before. Madison County's gone Republican before in presidential races in modern times, but it might surprise some folks.
What was the difference between this election cycle and the one 2 years ago? 2 years ago, we saw so many incumbents lose, and we didn't see that same kind of turnover this time.
I don't know, maybe divided attention would be part of it, although certainly there were all the statewide races to attract people's attention. I don't have a very good answer for that.
Why the incumbents fare better this time?
There was a presidential election. Presidential election years, the Democrats always do better. They get out and they vote. 2 years ago, there are a lot of people that went out and voted for Barack Obama, even though he lost Madison County. And then as they went down, they just started checking all the Democrats on there. 2 years ago, you didn't have a presidential election. And if you go back and you look at the election cycles for the past 20 years, you will see the Republicans do a lot better on non-presidential election years. And that's one of the reasons why the Democrats pretty much mopped up on the Republicans.
And 2 years ago, Democrat Rod Blagojevich was still a pretty fresh memory for people who might have wanted to associate the taint with the party.
Pat, a proposal to make it harder for lawmakers to enhance pension benefits was defeated. Are you surprised by that?
I was a little surprised by that. It failed to get the 60% or 50% of the people voting in the election it needed. I was noticing, I believe it did pass in St. Clair County, but it failed in Madison County. Not that that matters, but just an interesting way of looking at this. I think public employee unions, teachers turned out pretty strongly against it. Some of them were afraid of a passage in it that raised some very vague ambiguity about whether it might affect the existing constitutional protection of pension rights already earned. But it probably never made any difference anyway. It's very hard to find any pension increase that ever passed by more than the 3/5 vote that would have been required had this amendment passed.
Mike, surprised by the fact that the amendment to make it tougher to improve pension benefits failed?
Not really. The problem with amendments is they are so vague, people really don't even know what they're voting for. I had people calling me afterwards saying, what was this for? And I had to explain it to them like, oh, if I'd have known that, I would have voted for it. I said, well, that's the problem with amendments. They're too vague. Most people don't even know what they're voting on. And a lot of people are going to vote no if they really don't understand what they're voting for.
Where I think it might have made some significant difference is if the pension costs for teachers get passed back to the school boards. And this amendment had passed, it would have required 5 votes instead of 4 of a school board to increase the pension. So down the line, it might have been a component that fit together with others, but on its face, it didn't seem to mean very much.
And I believe that's going to be a major issue for Cullerton and Madigan, is to push those pension costs down.
That's going to be
the
big deal, I think.
And with these super majorities, I think they can dump off some of these Southern Democrats and still get it passed. So I think that's one of the consequences of this vote that the people just did.
That's going to do it for this round of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. Mike Walters, the Executive Director of the Southwestern Illinois Employers Association, has been here, along with Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch. I'm Kent Shuffle. We'll see you next time.